Well, I pride myself on being able to find inexpensive travel. Mainly because, I don't think I could do all this travel if it wasn't inexpensive. I'm not rich. I am rich, but all the money hasn't shown up in my account yet. So anyway, I have a wedding. So I got a kind of weird wedding invitation. And, when I get busy, I hate text. I like text better than phone calls. But I hate text. Like group text and too many texts and too much detailed text. So somehow I missed the details until about a week ago that this wedding is in like 2 weeks in New Orleans. So the first, way that we know to save money on travel is you need to book early. Or you need to be watching early so okay, flight was 200, now it's 100, let me grab it. You gotta be on it. So I looked at Embassy Suites, which is my favorite place. And if you watch, I have videos I'm putting up. I'm slowly but surely gaining subscribers. So eventually there'll be someone that can look through this and get the information as we grow. But if you've seen in my other videos, I mentioned that I love Embassy Suites. Like that's my go-to. Because it can be expensive depending on where and when. But usually you can find reasonable rates. And when I say reasonable, I mean somewhere between like 100 to 135. And they're excellent rooms and they have breakfast. So if you're traveling, and they have a good, not the continental breakfast with a couple of hard bagels in a container. It's a real hot breakfast. You can get an omelet made to order, potatoes, depending on what region you're in. Because when I was in Charlotte, they had grits, which if you're from the South or your family's from the South, you eat grits. But when I was in Seattle, there were no grits. Okay. I don't have to have grits, but they were good in Charlotte. I remember I was like, wow, I didn't even know grits could be this good. I guess it's a down South thing. So anyway, I went on to the site for New Orleans a week ago. And the rooms were $111 per night. So I was like, it looks like you got to pay immediately. And usually hotels, you can reserve it and you have like up to 24 hours before the date to cancel. But it was looking iffy and I didn't want to tie myself up. And again, I hate little small details, so I was like, I don't know. I don't know what the cost. I don't know if I can just hold this price, hold it. And I just figure I'll get back to it. You know how it is. The weekend came. I was busy, tired, lazy, whatever. And I didn't get back to it until a week later. A week later, the lowest price that I can find on that same site is $283 or $87. So it went from $111. It jumped like $170 per night. So I didn't check the hotel because it's usually, in my experience, the flights that fluctuate. You got to catch that flight at a good price first, whereas the hotels stay about the same. So I went and said, let me book this flight once I found out for sure. Because this time I'm going with my daughter. She's a musician. She's a music major. And I just thought that New Orleans is a perfect place for a musician. And she's never been. So, and it's a family member getting married. So she, So I booked the flight once I'm sure that she's available and is planning to go because she's slippery. And Then I went to get the hotel. And they're $300 a night, and we're staying for like 5 nights. I don't pay that much for hotels. I mean, if I'm having a vacation that is for something special and, involves my children or me, okay, maybe, but just flying down for a wedding that's kind of like 2 weeks before in a city that I'm not even that crazy about. New Orleans used to be my favorite city in the United States, hands down. But I went, this is 2022. I went 8 years ago. So that was post-Katrina. I've only been twice. The first time was before Katrina. The second time was post-Katrina. And the city felt very different. It felt, I didn't like it. So this is no offense to New Orleanians because, hey, you was my favorite city. And I still love the whole flavor and the people and the vibes. It's just, there's no city like that in America that I'm aware of that has that much flavor, But it just didn't sit right with my soul the last time. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I outgrew it. I'm older than when I went the first time. I think I was a teenager. So it was super cool to me then. And I'm like, I don't know, but just the people that I met the first time when I met people, they were lively, they were spirited, they just were. That's why I loved it so much. I'm like, these are my people that have energy, people that have personality and people skills, because I can't stand a dry place where everybody's dry and uptight. In DC, yeah, it's more of an uptight environment. It's changed since the gentrification, but before the gentrification, DC was very conservative and uptight and just, so I really liked New Orleans. And I'm also a musician, so I could appreciate the jazz and the music and the dancing. But this last time, everyone, it's almost like, are y'all depressed? What's happening? And like I said, maybe they are. Maybe Katrina affected them in such a way. But I came 9 years after Katrina. So I didn't expect that, where people's energy and their engagement, it was like they were going, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Okay, what's the best thing to order? And they're like, the shrimp and grits is good. Like they just, everywhere I went, that was the vibes. Bourbon Street, the smell, the drinking, the weirdness, it just felt ungodly to me. And I'm not, a preaching type. Everybody can believe what they want to believe, but I am very spiritual. I'm very tapped in, and it felt like a kind of low vibration or dark energy. And again, forgive me, don't come for me, please, New Orleanians. I just said you were my favorite city. So this is just what it felt like to me. There's nothing against the people there. It's nothing against that city. I know how much you love your city. And actually, I still found a lot of beautiful parts and pieces to the city. But yeah, so I just wanted to post that because I'm like, yo. So someone said, another person in one of my groups said, oh, did you guys notice like hotels have gone up really crazy? Because also I have another family event in July in Chicago, and the lowest ticket I could find as of yesterday, March 10th, was for like $300. That's more than I paid to go to Mexico. What happened to these cheap flights? Like, what am I supposed to do here? And I was planning to go to El Salvador. I've been debating. I have a break for like a week in April, which is also my birthday. So I usually travel around then. And the flight to El Salvador was maybe like 100, like 200, like 180. And so I was still trying to decide between Guatemala and El Salvador and which place to go. And my mechanic is from El Salvador. So once I told him, he said, oh, I'm going to call my brother. You'll be good. I'll put you in a place to stay. And he's such a nice guy. But I was like, I don't know that I want to go to a foreign country. I don't know you that well. I mean, I just met you a couple years ago. I don't know that I want to, go to, he's like, don't get a hotel. He's like, my brother's got you. I'm like, now if my son goes with me, that's one thing. But me going alone and meeting up with your brother, I don't know. I wish I could, because he's like, don't get a hotel. We have a house. I'm like, that would be great. Save me the money. The whole trip is $181. However, you got to be safe. You can't be a fool. But yeah, so I'm going to New Orleans. The ticket is already bought. And it looks like I may be clunking down about $1,500 to stay. Because as I started research, I'm like, oh, okay, I may have to find a different hotel. Doesn't have to be Embassy Suites. Let me check, as long as it's clean and decent. And then a okay location, I'll go for it. But all the hotels are at least $200. So I found the Troubadour, which is $200 a night. But, there's a lot to say. They're at the French Quarter. They're near the French Quarter. And the last time I went, almost every morning, we got up and we went down to that place, which I cannot recall the name, but the beignet place that everybody knows about. We walked down. We had our cafe au lait and our beignet, and it was so sweet. And it was just such a nice touch. And it was one of my favorite parts. It probably was my favorite thing about that trip, is my friend and I walking down and having our beignet and coffee. So I really wanted to do that when I was there with my daughter, even though she won't care at all. Like, one thing, she won't care about walking down and getting beignets and coffee, and probably won't even do it with me. But I still want to do that for myself. And so now I'm seeing all these places that say Warehouse Arts District. And if any of you are living through gentrification, if you're in a major city, you know what that means. That's like some place that everybody looked at as dirty and old and forgotten. And some ingenious person bought an old building, turned it into lofts, and it's off the beaten pathway. And it's like a weird, newly invented, cool, hipster area. I don't know if that's the truth. So that's another reason why I'm putting this up. I need people to look here and comment, because I'm trying to figure out where to stay in New Orleans. And so I'm like, okay, do I take the Troubadour at this great price of $200 per night? Or am I going to be in some weird off-brand location? And I'm only there for 5 days, and one includes a wedding. So that's a whole day devoted to a wedding, basically getting dressed and getting there. So I need to know, I want to be where I'm close to things. I don't want to have to be driving and Ubering and all over the place. So even though I don't care, I've seen, like, just was there. To me, that was recent, even though technically it was 8 years ago. It feels recent. And when I went 8 years ago, I went to Marie Laveau's tomb. I went on a cemetery walking tour, free tour. Like I say, I went to the Cafe au lait beignet place every day. I don't know why I cannot think of the name of that place. And I don't know why they're not franchises, and why aren't they all over the world? Because, people would buy that. People would get that. Beignet place. Anyway, so I'm going to stop here, but I just wanted to point out that hotel prices have gone up crazy. So like I said, one of the ladies said that apparently it's just inflation. So this gas price hike that we all know about currently, today again is I think March 11th, that is causing everything to hike, is what she said. And that kind of makes sense. And now all prices are just going up. So if you see this, and you know anything about New Orleans and where to stay, even the Airbnb. So I was like, okay, I thought I'd use all my little methods. Okay, let me check here. You know, cheap tickets is always good. I used the Hotel Tonight app. That's where I found the $200 Troubadour. Because if you go online, the Troubadour is like $300 as well. But on Hotel Tonight, the Troubadour Hotel was like $200. That was the best I could find. It looked cute, you know. So I'm like, okay. Someone suggested Royal Sonesta, which has a balcony. So I was kind of interested in that. But again, they're all $300 a night. So at this point, I've already booked the flights. They are cheap. So I may just have to bite the bullet and pay the higher price because I am taking my daughter. And this is more, you know, it's a little different because I'll rough it. I have yet to stay in a hostel. I was going to stay in one in Costa Rica. That time I was with my son. And it was so cheap that I like reserved it and we ended up not even going and I just lost the money. It's probably like $20. But a lot of people, a lot of solo travelers, a lot of people say hostels are great. As long as you pick the right one and you get a single room. Because as a solo traveler, you get to, you know, meet and interact with people instead of just being totally alone. I love being alone. Let me have this. This is all I need. My iPad and a journal and a pen. And I'll either sit and I'll write or reflect or I'll watch this. I love it. But, you know, so that's that. I need to have a place to stay in New Jersey. And like I said, Chicago's flights from D.C. were $300 all the way in July. So I'm hoping that they go down. I didn't book it because I go through Hopper, and Hopper will tell you when prices are going to go up and down. So Hopper told me, wait, this will probably go down. So I'm like, thank you, Hopper, because $300 to Chicago versus $200 to New Mexico City. I mean, going international versus just going within this country. I don't want to pay $300 to go to Chicago. You know, I don't, but I will. I have to go because this is a memorial service for a family member. So I will be there. But so if you watch this and you know anything about New Orleans, Chicago, I don't need any information. I mean, I do need a hotel. Their hotels don't seem that cheap either, but we're just going to stay wherever. And I'm going with the family members, so we'll be splitting the cost. It's not a big deal. But New Orleans is 2 weeks from now, and all the rooms are $300. Is there some kind of room hookup? One of my groups, they actually posted corporate codes for all the hotel chains. And I mean, I don't know, you know. But always remember when you are looking to check the special rates. They'll have a AAA rate. They'll have an AARP rate. They'll have a government military rate. And they'll have like a senior rate. AARP and senior rate is different. And anything that I qualify for, I check. And they will give you a lesser price. And sometimes it's not that much lesser, but lately, that 111 in New Orleans last week, which I wish I had taken. Oh my God, 111 times 5 days. It would have been a good $550, $600 versus now it's going to be like $1,300 or $1,500. I mean, it's unbelievable, and I don't know what to do about that. That's a first for me. I've never had that kind of hike in a price of a hotel. And I've been doing this a long time. So I'm in a bind where I'm like, wow, I just got to pay it. I have to stay somewhere. I mean,